in the IDF's war in Gaza, they would say that the Israeli, forces are not in any way trying to target Palestinian civilians. In fact, they have been urging them to evacuate and flee northern Gaza to southern Gaza, where they will be relatively safe. But what we do know is that aerial bombardments of the southern region of the Gaza Strip had continued despite the allegations that these evacuations would lead to safer conditions for Palestinian civilians. Now we're learning that they are planning to basically increase aerial bombardments of the southern part of the Gaza Strip, where many have fled for safety, but many have dealt with bombardments anyway. Those are about to intensify. So in the south, where hundreds of thousands of Gazans who fled the north of the enclave are sheltering, at least 14 Palestinians were killed in 2 Israeli strikes on houses, on homes. Let me just reiterate that. In Rafah, according to Gaza health authorities, there was no immediate Israeli comment on the incident. I'd like to also note that at least 50% of the homes in Gaza have been destroyed thanks to the airstrikes conducted by the IDF. And I say that because what exactly is supposed to happen when all of this bombing and all of this shelling ends? Where are Gazans who are already living in a densely populated strip of land supposed to go? And as you know, since so many of them have fled to the southern region of the Gaza Strip, the densely populated region is now even more densely populated, meaning that aerial bombardments are going to kill far more Palestinian civilians. The IDF knows that. The American government knows that. And so at least 1,300 Palestinians have been killed so far, including at least 5,500 children by unrelenting Israeli bombardment. The United Nations says 2/3 of Gaza's 2.3 million people have been made homeless. And some 900,000 displaced people are now in UN shelters, which also get bombed, by the way. The UN Humanitarian Office said in an update on Monday, thousands more displaced people were sleeping against the walls of shelters in the south, out in the open, with an average of 1 shower for 700 people and 1 toilet for 150, according to the UN. Okay, so those are the conditions on the ground right now. And it is just torturous. There's death everywhere. And the high civilian death toll will give you a sense of just how careful the IDF has been with their aerial bombardments. And they'll use the excuse of, well, these poor civilians were used as human shields by Hamas militants. They have failed to provide any evidence that they have, killed a voluminous number of Hamas militants. You know that there are thousands of children who have died as a result of this war. You know that this is the kind of targeting of civilians that tends to lead to more extremism that in the long run does not keep Israeli civilians safe. But the Israeli government continues to do this. The United States government continues to provide cover for it. And just so we are absolutely certain of what the intentions are here, I want to go to some of the insane statements that you are likely to hear from various Israeli officials, including the president of Israel. His name is Isaac Herzog. He argues that anyone who has engaged in protests against the IDF's actions and in favor of Palestinian civilians should really be looked at closely. Let's watch.
We are faced between a coalition of hate, a coalition of, I call it darkness, which is a jihadist coalition, which emanates from Tehran with its proxies in Lebanon, in Gaza, of course, by Hamas, in Yemen with the Houthis, and of course, spreading Islamic fundamentalist jihadism all over the world, which wants to erase all of them, of all of us. If Israel weren't there, then Europe will be next, and the United States is for sure next, because they call the United States the big Satan. And that is why I think those protesters who are supporting Hamas, they're actually accomplices to the whole notion that you can butcher young children, that you can chop heads of women, that you can rape women and pregnant women, that you can abduct old age Holocaust survivors, and you can do a whole bunch of atrocities because you basically support Hamas. That's what they've done.
There is no indication that these protesters are in any way in support of Hamas. What he's doing there is attempting to silence protesters who are concerned about the IDF slaughtering children in Gaza, which they have been doing. The high civilian death toll of children in Gaza apparently doesn't matter. The slaughter of those children, not that important. And it's unsurprising that he has that kind of frame of mind, Cenk, considering the statements that came out of Herzog in October, about a week after Hamas's atrocities and terrorist attacks. He said this: "It is an entire nation out there that is responsible. It is not true, this rhetoric about civilians being aware, not involved. It's absolutely not true. They could have risen up. They could have fought against the evil regime which took over Gaza in a coup d'etat." So what he's arguing there is, there's no such thing as Palestinian civilians. They didn't oust Hamas. And so the idea that they're non-combatants is ridiculous. That's what he's arguing there.
Congratulations, Isaac Herzog. You now agree with Hamas. No ands, ifs, or buts about it. That is the exact logic that Hamas uses. They say, well, Israeli citizens voted for Netanyahu and voted for these right-wing governments that occupy us and kill us and imprison us unfairly. They have all these hostages that they take all the time, and women and children. So we had to kill the Israeli civilians, and that's what we condemn. And we all condemn it together. Say you should not, kill civilians because of how they voted. Now the president of Israel says, yes, you should. Yes, you should. Not only voting, because he knows now that the great majority of Palestinians in Gaza weren't even alive when that vote happened decades ago, right? So now he says they had an active responsibility as civilians to rise up against armed Hamas militants and somehow defeat them with their bare hands. And if they didn't, they deserve to be murdered by us. Congratulations, you agree with Hamas 100%. But we don't. We don't agree with the monstrous actions of Hamas or the monstrous actions of the Israeli president. But now on top of that, he's got a new standard. American civilians, American protesters are now, he said it, you heard it on the tape, accomplices to Hamas. So are you gonna murder us too? Because you say, we just quoted you. You think it's okay to murder civilians because we didn't actively fight back against your perceived enemies. So are we, first of all, the American protesters, a lot of them are Jewish, by the way, but you think it's their accomplices to Hamas, and that according to your standards, that presumably you can kill them. And we didn't rise up against those protesters, so can you kill us too? But most importantly, guys, Israel's not gonna bomb us, obviously, right? But most importantly, look at this guy, leader of a foreign country, coming here telling us what to do with our rights and our citizens. You shouldn't allow your citizens to be opposed to me in my country. I order your country to cancel anyone and to call them terrorists and drive them from the public sphere. Hey, brother, you don't live here. You're not our president. You got nothing to do with us. You pretend to be our ally. All you ever do is get us in trouble. And now you got us dropping bombs on innocent civilians, and now you're bragging about it, driving the whole world to hate us as well as you. And now you're gonna order us around and call us accomplices? Nah, take that crap somewhere else.
This is the thing that really gets to me. The arrogance, the underlying arrogance in the messaging there, which essentially tells the American people, who are nickel and dime by our own government when it comes to our needs. But when it comes to the needs of the Israeli government, and when it comes to what weaponry they need to carry out their atrocities against the Palestinian people, Americans just need to, Cenk, we just need to shut up, give them the aid that they demand, and just take it. We're not allowed to exercise our freedom of expression within the borders of our own country, according to Isaac Herzog. And if we do, then that means that we are accomplices to Hamas. We've been very clear in how we feel about what Hamas did. We did not at all even pause when it came to condemning the atrocities committed by Hamas. But the notion that American citizens, who have been shelling out tax dollars in the form of military aid for Israel, need to sit down and shut up and just provide that aid and never criticize what the Israeli government is carrying out against Palestinian civilians in Gaza is ridiculous, and we don't comply. We don't comply. But by the way, some people love to just undermine, these very public statements by saying it's just one Israeli official, it's just one right-wing lunatic within Netanyahu's government. Come on, don't make too much of this. Okay, well, let's go to one other video. This happened a few days ago on Anderson Cooper's show. Let me just preface this by saying Anderson Cooper did not in any way challenge what you're about to hear from a former Israeli intelligence official. His name is Rami Igra. Let's watch what he had to say.
The non-combatant population in the Gaza Strip is really a non-existent term because all of the Gazans have voted for the Hamas. And as we have seen on the 7th of October, most of the population in the Gaza Strip are Hamas. Nonetheless, we are treating them as non-combatant. We are treating them as regular civilians, and they are spared from the fighting.
No, you are not treating them as civilians. They are not spared in the fighting. You have over 5,000 children who have been slaughtered as a result of the IDF's war in Gaza. And look, he just clearly said it. He doesn't see any of these Gazan civilians, any of these Palestinian civilians, including those babies that we've shown you footage of, as non-combatants. He thinks that they're all those babies that were just taken off the incubators at Al-Shifa Hospital. Those are enemy combatants, according to this guy, because they voted for Hamas. Back in 2006, more than half of the population in Gaza wasn't even born in 2006 when Hamas was elected.
Yeah, I don't think that American media should have these terrorists.
No, I disagree. I think they should have them on. I think they should have them because they can't help themselves, Cenk. They can't help themselves. They tell on themselves all the time, and I am very happy that they are this candid and transparent about what they think about innocent civilians in Gaza. Because if we say it, if we show you the death tolls, there's always this plausible deniability among defenders of Israel's far-right government. But you can't really defend it when members of the far-right government are just out and out saying that they don't value the lives of those innocent Palestinian civilians.
Then let's be very clear. Those Israeli officials that are advocating for that you just saw with your own eyes, are terrorists. Don't tell me that they're not terrorists and tell me the definition of terrorism is advocating for killing civilians. You just saw them advocate for killing civilians. And they say they're all collectively guilty, just like Hamas says about innocent Israelis. So those guys, including Isaac Herzog, the president of Israel, is a terrorist. And he brags about being a terrorist. Oh yeah, I'm gonna kill their civilians because they didn't somehow do an armed uprising against Hamas. They had it coming. And by the way, it's not theoretical. He is actually killing their civilians. It's not 1% hypothetical. There's this thing of like, oh, well, if Hamas could, they'd drive Israel into the sea. And I'm deeply concerned about that, but that's theoretical. Israel is actually driving Gaza into the sea, actually doing it, and then bragging about it. And then these terrorists come on here and tell us how to conduct our business and how we shouldn't have freedom of speech. And that anyone who disagrees with them should be called a terrorist, even though they're openly advocating in the same exact segment for murdering civilians.
Yep.
And then he has the nerve, President Herzog has the nerve to talk about dead babies. I can talk about how Hamas was brutal and killed those poor babies that didn't deserve it in Israel. I can talk about that because I didn't sanction the killing of other babies. But you come on here and after having killed over 5,000 Palestinian children. And you now have released videos, IDF has released videos of tunnels completely unaffected by the bombing. All of the bombing wasn't targeted to Hamas. Hamas is in the tunnels. The only people killed are civilians. The overwhelming majority of the people killed are civilians, and IDF knows that. They know that. So Herzog and the other guy, and now many other cabinet members have come out and said, yeah, why don't we just take the land, kill them, and say that they had it coming because they're violent. Because they're violent. No, brother, you're violent. They're also violent, but there's no excuse for it. But they are rising up against your oppression. They're not occupying you. You're occupying them. You're the one that has broken every international law. You're the one committing war crimes right now. So If I could get rid of Hamas today, I would love to do that. They are Muslim fundamentalists. They caused nothing but grief for the Palestinian citizens. But I can't do anything about Hamas. But the good people of Israel can kick out these monsters from their own government. Total, utter monsters going around the world bragging about how they kill civilians. And if you don't do that, please don't come and tell us about how you're worried about how American protesters are terrorists. Please, you literally meet the definition.
Thanks for watching. If you become a member, you get to watch all this ad-free, except for, of course, this ad. Still, hit the join button below.